Squeaky door. Okay. Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming to the session here, coming to near the end of the day. I'm Baz. I'm track producer here, and my pleasure to introduce Margo, who's going to be talking about building data intelligence and collaboration, about collaborations, networks, and ecosystems. Having looked at her slides and the application she's built, I'm actually going to use it myself. Okay, so please look forward to seeing Margo's presentation. We have people virtual as well, and there'll be questions. If they got questions, they'll come on over for me. If you got any questions at the end, we're going to have about 5 minutes. Please raise your hand. We'll obviously answer those questions. There is also a poll which we'll share afterwards, which has been about 90 people have responded to, which is excellent. All over to Margo, who's come all the way from Holland to present.
Okay, thank you, Bas, for the introduction, and welcome to everyone who has chosen my session here in the room and at home all over the world. The aim of this presentation is to share ideas about how we can become smarter about what's happening within and between organizations, on collaborations, networks, and ecosystems. I will speak for approximately 20 to 25 minutes, and afterwards I'll be happy to take any of your questions. Just a few words about myself. My name is Margo, and I work for the Dutch government. Just being curious, who in the room has ever been to the Netherlands? Raise your hand, please. Okay, well, for the audience at home, half of the room has been to the Netherlands. Okay, let's move on. In 2018, I first heard about MIT CDOIQ, and I was immediately hooked on the CUBE interviews on YouTube. For the last 2 years, I've attended online CDOIQ, and this has been a delight made possible by Corona. But for now, what an honor to present here live in Boston. I've divided my presentation into 4 parts. First, I'm going to give an introduction to the province of South Holland as part of the Netherlands. Second, I'm going to share examples of typical projects within South Holland to give you an overview of the issues we have to solve and the kind of collaborations we need for that. Third, I'm going to tell you about earlier explorations and attempts we have made. As a result of this process, we developed the open platform, the SNAP. Bas was already talking about it, the strategic network app. And finally, I'm going to present 3 design principles needed for a platform to see what's happening within and between organizations. And these 3 principles also form the basis for the SNAP. But for now, let's start. To give you some general information about the Netherlands, there are 17.5 million inhabitants in an area of about the same size as the state of Maryland or the state of West Virginia, at over 40,000 square kilometers. In addition to our national government, we have 12 provinces, 21 regional water authorities, and 342 municipalities. And at each level, elections are held once every 4 years. As you can see on the map, the province of South Holland is the purple area. Within the Netherlands, the province of South Holland is the most populated province, with 3.8 million inhabitants, including the cities of Rotterdam, Gouda, Leiden, and The Hague. I would like to stress that in addition to this list of almost 400 governmental authorities, there are a multitude of public organizations to perform specific tasks. An earlier inventory of our Ministry of Interior identified more than 1,200 of such organizations. This leads me to my next point, in which I will show you some examples of collaboration from our daily practices. The province of South Holland is responsible for the design and maintenance of the physical living environment of its whole area. Since South Holland can best be described as a dense area in which every piece of the land has its function and is often used for multiple purposes, no project or topic stands alone. Everything is interconnected. So almost all our work is done in collaboration with other stakeholders, like municipalities, environmental services, construction companies, knowledge institutions, and all kinds of interest groups. For example, for nature, farming, small and mid-sized enterprises. I would like to highlight the diversity of the projects that South Holland carries out on these pictures. In the photo on the left of this slide, you can see the city of Rotterdam with Maasvlakte 2 highlighted. Here, 10 square kilometers of new land was reclaimed from the sea. The province made a limited contribution to this major project in realizing a part of the nature compensation in collaboration with a lot of partners. In the photo to the top right-hand side, you can see inland shipping lanes. We invest in low-emission freight transport by water, together with companies that depend on inland navigation, the boatmen, and even international partners, like the European Union and partners in Belgium and in Germany. The third photo on this picture of this slide shows our greenhouse horticulture. This cluster is #1 in the world, and this industry is not isolated either. Their activities have a direct relationship with R&D, export, food quality, water management, logistics, etc. The province provides support to the greenhouse network of more than 1,000 parties, so they all can benefit. As you can see on this slide, we have more examples of the Dutch living environment, about inner cities, stimulating bicycle use, roads and waterways, etc. On each topic, in different settings, we work together with many other organizations. My estimation for the province alone is that we participate in at least 500 collaborations. And to give you some typical examples from our business, we have the Green Circles, a network for sustainable solutions with nature in the leading role. We have CLINCH, a European consortium for clean inland shipping. We have MRDH, in which 23 South Holland municipalities work together on of bundled forces for mobility and public transport. We have Zorro, a development of public transport connection between Rotterdam and Zoetermeer, and other collaborations like Swang for noise pollution along roads, a POP3 and MPLG for rural areas, Frames for resilient water management, GRIP for crisis management, and this list of collaborations is almost endless, often only known to the colleagues directly involved. So for me, the main issue here is that, given the importance of all these collaborations and the large number of topics, it's crucial to have more insight into the ecosystem and to better know what we work on and with whom. Okay, let's move on to the third point of my presentation, which concerns earlier explorations and attempts we have made. In 2017, I was involved in the digitization of the new Environment and Planning Act, which also involved one big anthill of collaborations, including all 400 governmental authorities I previously mentioned. Okay, at that time, I noticed the graphs of social network analysis, and here you can see those graphs. A typical method used by researchers to understand networks. However, a limitation of this method is that in this way we do not learn much about the content and the purpose of these relationships. In a social network graph, we can see that, that organizations are related, but we cannot see which group specifically or how and why. When we collaborate with partners in our network, we typically create new temporary entities like core teams, project groups, negotiation teams and working groups. And in addition to these core groups, often sub-teams are active on specific aspects of the collaboration, such as the legal framework, tendering and finance. These groups that are doing the real collaboration are not visible in the traditional network graphs, and you won't find them listed elsewhere. Thus, in acquiring knowledge, we have to dive deeper and focus on the content involved. Let's examine this in more detail on my next slide, on this slide. In 2019, I first tried to map the administrative system within the province of South Holland by creating a dataset in Power BI focused on the major social issues like public order, mobility, the social domain, housing and civil affairs. A dataset that answers questions such as: who are the administrators in a municipality? Which public officials have a shared responsibility on the same topics? And which authorities work together? Well, this is a first attempt. This image is a first attempt at that. As you can see on this slide, we were able to navigate easily with this interactive setup. Like here on the subject of agriculture and fisheries. So you can see a lot of issues and topics down under, and you could click on the municipalities, and here you see the political parties involved and the administrators connected to their municipality. This dataset has received a lot of attention in the Dutch public administration, but there were also important shortcomings, such as the limited scalability of the solution, the focus on high-level officials, leaving the lower echelons of organizations out of the picture. And the data was retrieved manually, which took a lot of time and also resulted in outdated information. In the follow-up to the first attempt, which didn't work as intended, we decided to take a different approach. We developed the static dataset into a dynamic platform called the SNAP. And here you can see a screen print of this platform. The core definition of a platform is to create value by bringing producers and consumers of information together. The more use that is made of such a platform, the more interesting it will become for getting the overall picture of the ecosystem. To put it simply, we call that this network effects, and that is what we are looking for. Besides the actual exchange of information on the platform, network effects are generated in the form of data, namely about collaborations, networks, and ecosystems. In the next slides, I present 3 design principles needed to create a platform for building data intelligence on ecosystems. But first, a sip of water. Okay, and this leads me to the 4th and final point of my presentation, in which I speak about what is needed to create a platform for building data intelligence on ecosystems. At first glance, it seems that insights into the ecosystem can be obtained with the resources and platforms already available, such as customer relationship management systems, LinkedIn, and social network analysis. The problem, however, is that these are built on a foundation of individual employees, personal contacts, or relationships between organizations depicted in arrows and lines. And usually these solutions are limited to one's own organization, leaving the rest of the ecosystem out of the picture. We need new solutions, rethinking, and even a new language to understand these collaborations within and between organizations, all adding up to ecosystems. In our solutions, we did things differently by focusing on entity group as the elementary block of the ecosystem, by inviting groups to communicate so we all know what's happening, and by making organizations semi-open for groups, for sharing groups, so that per organizations, all connected groups become visible. On the next slides, I will explain this in more detail. Okay, take a look at our first design principle about the focus needed on the entity group. Earlier, I mentioned that we should be more interested in groups, being the embodiment of collaboration. Groups formed by representatives of different organizations are not just lines between connecting organizations. They have agency and they produce ideas, knowledge, and information that is of interest to others. They are in fact the building blocks of the ecosystem. What we would like to know is, what is the description and the title of the group? What experience and knowledge do they generate? And which organizations and which colleagues have joined the group? The first design principle, the focus on groups, will generate new data about these entities and gives us insights into what's happening in the ecosystem. Okay, let's turn our attention to the second design principle about who is communicating on the platform. In our solution, this has to be the group, to draw the attention away from the individual. As you can see on this slide, telephony and mail delivery were previously set up with the aim to connect mainly unique individuals through a telephone number or a home address. Social platforms aimed at building networks enable interactions between unique individuals and different size groups, from one member to more. Let me explain this with a concrete example. WhatsApp makes communication possible one-on-one and one to a group, and LinkedIn goes even further by facilitating communication one-to-many. In order to provide the insights we are looking for, the next step is enabling groups to communicate, as you can see on this next slide. We need communication from groups to the organization, which can be seen as intranets, so within the organizations, and from groups to many, which can be seen as the open platform, the extranet. By setting up this communication from groups to organizations and to the open platform, these groups become visible as sources of experience and knowledge on all kinds of topics and issues. The third design principle is about openness. Once we have a platform where groups create accounts and share knowledge and experience, the question arises, what information is to be shared with whom? We think that while much of the information on the platform is visible to any user, organizations should have privileged access to specific data that concerns themselves. For example, while individual names are never visible on the open part of the platform, it is possible to see the names of the people within your own organization. And this allows you to learn which colleagues are involved in what collaborations. And it also means that when you create an internal group without people from other organizations, all your colleagues can see who is participating. As you can see on the next slide, organizations will have access to a dashboard that gives them direct insights into the totality of all their collaborations, plus an overview of all the group-based activities within the organization. This is valuable information that is hard to obtain otherwise. I hope, by this way of thinking, we can explore the ecosystem starting from within your own organization, reaching to the unknown. Okay, right. That brings me nearly to the end of my presentation. Just to summarize the main points again, we looked at 4 main points. I began by telling you about the province of South Holland as part of the Netherlands. Then I talked about typical projects within South Holland to give you an overview of the issues we have to solve and the kind of collaborations we need for that. After that, I explained how earlier explorations and attempts have led us to the development of the open platform, the SNAP. And finally, I presented 3 design principles to see what's happening within and between organizations. I hope that this presentation has given you inspiration to, as to how this can be relevant to you and your organization. I believe this way of thinking will contribute to the success in delivering intangible results in solving social problems, but maybe there are broader opportunities. So in conclusion, the main message of my presentation is to build data intelligence on ecosystems, and our solution in doing so is an open platform around groups. The group is the main entity, the group communicates, and the group is part of a community of organizations. I invite you to experience the SNAP for yourself, and if you see business opportunities, let's talk after the presentation. Now, if you have any questions, I'll do my best to answer them. I hand it over to you, Bas.
Okay, Margo, awesome. Thank you so much. Excellent work in building this NAP out. Obviously, the link's there, so go try it out. I'm going to try it out myself. Any questions?
It's a great presentation. My question is, how do you define groups? I mean, that's obviously the critical component of this data ecosystem. How do you define groups? And what's the relationship between groups and organizations? Is a group subset of an organization, or does it matter? Or it could be sometimes an organization, a subset of a group. So
Okay, a very good question. Thank you. The group is really not defined. It can be everything. What the people who like to use the SNAP can define will define as a group. So it can be, it can be 2 people working on a specific task. It can be a major development or whatever. You use the SNAP to communicate your experience and your knowledge with your peers within your organization and outside the organization. And if you feel like I'm working in a group and I would like to share this information with others, you can create a group from within your organization, and you can invite people from other organizations as well to join this group. But you cannot say, let's join this group, because no, this is not, this platform is not for internal communication within the group, it's for external communication to let the world and your organization know what you're working on. Yeah. Is that answering your question?
Okay, so up to you, kind of define the group as you go.
Yeah, it's.
I'm curious, how do you manage the flow of communication? I mean, what we see already is that you don't have to be involved in very many things to be deluged with data, with articles, papers, commentary pouring in. So in this model, how do members of a group figure out what's important?
You become an individual member of this platform, and we have a recommendation engine that looks in what groups do you participate and what are the things you like. So as an individual, you can like certain posts and you can follow groups and that kind of things, and that will define what is, we have this recommendation engine that will give you a limited but hopefully interesting information. And on the second thing is, within your organization, you can see all information that is posted by groups connected to your organization. And we have a search engine in there as well, so you can look up what initiatives within my organizations relate to bicycles or to roads or whatever. And that's, it can be much, but first we would like to get there, and then we, I have a UX designer, he's looking at how can we dose those things, yes.
Okay, I hope it works better than Facebook's like engine.
Oh, yes, I hope so too.
Another question?
You had mentioned earlier on in the presentation that you had about 500 different partners that you were working with in just the South Holland province. So how did you roll this out? Did you roll it out to the 500, and what did that transition look like, bringing people in and getting them educated on how to use the tool, and how are they doing on it? Like, how would you assess it so far? I'm just really curious.
Well, I will tell you, the 500 is the number of external collaborations we have. And a month ago, I had a session with my colleagues, including many people from the management, about how can we, how do we move forward? And actually, when I was mentioning about the groups, they also thought of the internal collaborations and so on, and they said, well, we are in at least 10 to 30 groups, each person, on all kinds of topics. So this is a huge market, and the feedback we got was, take the summer period to develop the last few things, and then get a move on, go for it. So the end of August, I will talk to the management of the province about how we do this take forward. And I have also a lot of connections with departments at federal, state, municipalities, and all kinds of people, of organizations who are interested in using this. So. But it's an open platform, so everybody can use it, and we have an English version and a Dutch version. So, it's the reason why I developed this platform is because we need this kind of tooling in our work. But we are not the organization that can bring this to a professional level. We just now have the minimum viable product. Yeah.
Okay. So this just popped in my head. So I'm just curious, like, people are sharing information, which is fantastic. Is there a way to kind of, I guess, monitor security? So, like, if folks start sharing documents or sharing information that maybe shouldn't be shared, like, how do you begin to even track that? And
well, we're now in a minimum stage. Only at the beginning. But this feature, is it open or is it closed, hidden? This summer we will build the functionality of hidden groups and hidden messages, posts within the organization. But trust and security is a major issue, of course. But I don't know if we can, with our small group who developed this kind of thing, I don't know if we can bring it up to this professional level. But you're absolutely right. Yeah.
First of all, Margo, thank you so much. This is a fascinating topic, and it's an important one. I like how you talked about the benefit of going beyond just the relationships into the content and so on. So I think there's lots of applications across multiple industries for this. I have really maybe a two-part question. One of them is, what would prevent me from creating a group called the South Holland River Authority and say Ken Elliott is part of the South Holland River Authority?
Well, you're completely free in choosing your own names of the groups, but you're not free in choosing the organizations. And we, well, it's a bit like at Twitter, they use the blue marks. We check if the organizations are connected to a domain name on the internet. And that is what we hold with us, because we don't want an interest group saying, hey, I'm Shell and I will do nice things. And the second thing is we also keep the rights to ourselves to remove.
Got it. So it's moderated.
Yeah.
So then you moderate the groups somehow.
Yes, well, somehow. I don't know. It's an empty candy store at the moment, but I don't know how that evolves.
Okay.
Yes.
And my final question is, you set up a really important problem in your first few slides about how complex it is to do
Yes.
business in this area with so many different groups that have to come together. What's your ideal use case? Who would use this, and how would you use it? Going back to like your first slide, how would it make it easier for me to put up a public park in South Holland, for example?
Yes, well, I'm a data strategist within the province of South Holland, and my ideal use case is that the organization is using this for obtaining management information about what is happening. Now we have a lot of collaborations, but sometimes 15 different topics to one municipality, and we don't have a clue. So because these collaborations are becoming complex and more complex, our management needs to deal with that and prioritize and stuff like that, and get more insights. So that is my use case mainly, and not the specific one. But I hope this will work a bit like LinkedIn. So I see my colleagues post a lot on LinkedIn about all kinds of topics, while I think this is information that is crucial for your own organization and to build history about what you're doing with your own organization. So that's the reason why we did this. Thank you.
I think that's time up now.
Yep.
Thank you very much, Margo, and taking us through. I got one question for me. How many groups do you have today, and how many users are on it?
Well, we are just starting up, but there are about more than 100 accounts, individual accounts, and I think 20 groups, something like that.
20 groups,
But it's we go for the go moment in September.
Okay.
And then hopefully
Release
it
in
will
September.
it will fly.
Best of luck in September, and also the work you're doing on sustainability in your region is critical to the world, and tools like this help sustainability around ecosystems and biosystems, which is my passion, and I think this is a great tool for enabling biodiversity and collaboration. Thank you very much.
I hope so. Thank you. Thank you.